Smith, and I'm the current editor-in-chief.
You can't see them?
That was a law review.
Am I behind my
Oh,
name?
they were.
That's why
Sorry.
I need them.
Not enough chairs up there?
Bring them up. On behalf of the Law School, Middleton Children's Rights Center, and the Law Review, we welcome you on this Friday afternoon evening for the CLE. So, thanks to the members of the panel for coming out. I know that we're all proud of this opportunity. I want to say it was probably a year ago today that, oh, not today, but this month, Professor Patterson and I had a conversation about how can we partner with some clinics and centers here on campus. And he had this idea, and at that time it was definitely just an idea. I can't believe in a year that we've put together something where we're publishing some essays on the Drake Law Review's website, on a platform, and then now helping co-host the CLE. It's really neat to see come to fruition. So there is a sign-in sheet going around. If you are interested in receiving a link to all the essays that are being published, a few of them are up already. Another one will be published within a month or two on this topic of child welfare and our youngest children. Please feel free to write your name down and we'll blast an email out to you for that. So at this time, I want to introduce Dean Ben Olem. Dean Olem's tenure at Drake is coming to an end, and we thank him for the support of the Law Review. I know the Children Middleton Center for Children's Rights thanks him for all that he's done for this clinic, for this law school. So welcome, Dean Olem.
Thank you, Tyler, and thanks to the panel as well. I don't mean to be turning my back on you, but I will anyway. Actually, Lyle and Joan Middleton, Lyle, when he was still living, and Joan now have been friends of mine for decades, and so I know them quite well, and they'd be very proud of what's going on here. Joni today lives and breathes what's happening in the clinic and the center are really important for that. My job is to say hello and welcome, and I do see some familiar faces out there in the audience. I've said hello and welcome to several of you many times over the last couple of years, but it's my pleasure to do it again. This building, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is basically a law firm. And there are a number of clinics within the building that do things for people who can't afford legal services. There's an elder rights clinic, there's a criminal defense and prosecution clinic, there's a general practice which includes family law clinic, and several others. Thousands of hours a year are spent in this place to represent people that don't get representation otherwise, and this is a really fabulous thing that's going on here. The law school, for those of you who don't know, is about 2 minutes that direction. And I just left there, and out in the middle of the painted street, the tradition is occurring right now where it's getting painted, and so are about 500 students painting themselves and other things. The trees are wrapped, so the trees don't get painted, but it's hysterically funny, and they're having a great time. So if you get time over the next few weeks, it'd be worthwhile walking by that because it's a treat to see it. Just so you'll also know, the law school, in addition to the regular full-time JD, Doctor of Jurisprudence program, has master's programs as well. We have one in health law that's become very popular for people who already have an undergraduate degree but don't want a JD. They can get a master's degree about things important to them, and health law is a very popular one. We have others as well. One clinic we're especially proud of is the one that you are here about today, and that's the Middleton Center for Children's Rights, led by Brent Patterson. And Brent is also an associate clinical professor of the law school. He directs the center, and we're really proud of what that center does and what it does for children. There's nothing more important than those who can't take care of themselves, and what you're doing here is advocating for them and learning more about what you can do to help them. And we're very pleased with all of that. I understand too that you've been very much involved in the Safe Babies court team, that that Polk County's been working on. We're really pleased about that happening as well. So with that, let me turn it over to Brent Patterson. Thanks, Brent.
So I'm going to be quick, but I have some thank yous to give. Definitely. First, thanks to Dean Owen for the introduction and for coming today and talking with us a little bit. I want to thank everybody for coming on a Friday afternoon. I know this would be an easy time after work to be doing something else, but I'm really pleased that people are willing to come and share some time with us. I really want to thank the Law Review for being willing to take on this issue. There aren't that many law reviews around the country that are training their sites on child welfare law. And I think it's really great that our law review looks at that as something that's important to talk about and cover. And I'm especially thankful that they're recording this event today, because even though it's a Friday afternoon and we wouldn't expect to fill the courtroom, this conversation that we have here today is going to be recorded so it can be used for CLE across the state. And I'm very grateful to the Law Review for working that out as well. We're really lucky today to have 4 panelists, and really even 5 to a certain extent. And I want to introduce all of them to you. First, Judy Norris. So Judy Norris is from the National 0 to 3 Project. She's been working with our Safe Babies Court team since forever. She's sort of a little more loosely connected to it now, maybe you could say, but has been a critical component of it. And I still remember when she was in court, going to court hearings, and when all of us were the most perplexed, we would just all look at Judy, including Judge Cohen, by the way. And we'd be like, sort of, figure this out, Judy, tell us what we need to do. And she's just been an invaluable member of the Safe Babies Court team. We also have Dr. Rizwan Shah, who has spent years and years as a pediatrician here at Blank Children's Hospital, and also was really involved in the formation of Safe Baby Court teams in Iowa. We're just really grateful you're willing to spend your time here today talking about some of the history of it and the importance of pediatricians being involved in the multidisciplinary nature of this work. We're also lucky to have Judge Joseph Seidlin here. Judge Seidlin is the presiding judge over the Safe Babies Court team in Des Moines now. I don't know if he sort of knew that was what he would be stepping into when he became a juvenile court judge, but he's done an amazing job. And I know I tell him all the time, and I know it doesn't do me any good with my legal arguments, but that we learn something every time we appear in front of him. And he does a great job in that courtroom and in his other cases as well. And then finally, we have Tracy White. And Tracy White is a social work administrator at DHS. I think that she probably would say, first and foremost, she's a social worker. We've had the chance to work on a bunch of issues together over my time here, and she's a tireless advocate for kids and families. And then we're also very fortunate to have Catherine Crew here, who is the new, not so new, I guess, anymore, coordinator for the Safe Babies Court team. I hope you'll get a chance to hear a little bit from her about sort of how that program's going now. Before we get started with the conversation, does everybody here know what the Safe Babies Court teams are? And raise your hand if you already know something about them, or maybe have had some limited. Great, okay. So they started back in 2004, I think, in the country, and ours was 2005. They arose for, I think, maybe 3 or 4 really important reasons. The first is that these kids and families are some of the most vulnerable kids and families we have in juvenile court. It's not just the kids that are young, it's often the parents that are really young as well. The timelines for reunification in these cases are as short as 6 months. So if a parent's struggling and comes to court having just lost custody of their child, they have a relatively short period of time to really get the treatment and services they need in order to do a successful reunification. And so it's critical that we engage families quickly and that we get them the support they need so that we can put families back together. The other thing that's, I think, a little bit unique about these cases is the importance of a multidisciplinary approach, right? And that's one of the things that the Safe Babies Court teams really pioneered. Pediatricians, educators, social workers, lawyers, judges, all working together towards trying to address the family's needs and help put the family back together again. They arose as a response to all these problems and trying to do a better job than we've done traditionally. And they've now been around for 11 years here, maybe 12 in some other places. I think Hawaii might have been one of the very first. So what we're going to talk about today is about some of the unique challenges that confront lawyers and judges and social workers and pediatricians in these cases, but also lessons learned. What we know now about what works and how we can do a better job in all of our cases that involve sort of our youngest children. Because the bottom line is that I think there's only one in the state of Iowa that's taking this special approach. And we've got plenty of 0 to 3 kids in other courtrooms around the state. And so one of the critical questions for us moving forward is how to take some of the best practices from these cases and move them into traditional juvenile courtrooms. So with that, I'm going to start, where I'd like to start with the panelists is really to start, I think, with Judy, if you're okay with that, and some of the special challenges that you see as a social worker in these cases and coordinator for Safe Babies courtrooms for the parents and kids that are in them.
The challenges for the parents, or
yeah, you can start with that. Yeah.
I think the challenges for the parents of these young kids is obviously that timeline, that Adoption Safe Families Act timeline, and when we work in such a multidisciplinary approach where we have, I come from a background of social work, and I'm not an expert in early childhood. I'm not an expert in the medical field. I'm not an expert in law. I'm not an expert in any of those really detailed areas that we need to have the best of the best involved with these most vulnerable families. I think the challenge that the parents have is that when we learn about, even so many of the parents come in with substance abuse issues, right? And they have such an uphill battle to get themselves in a good place where they can safely parent. And we quickly realized that, I would say the very first case that we took on, we said, oh, we know what we need to put in place for the child. We have Early Head Start, we have early access, Part C services, we have the Regional Child Protection Center. Those are the best of the best. And then we realized that our reunification wasn't happening like we really wanted to have happen because we weren't focusing on all of those issues that the parents came to us with. So we're working against that timeline, and the parents are working against all that they have to overcome. So we needed to really band together as a multidisciplinary group and support these parents and get the best of the best for them as well. Because they shouldn't have to face that challenge without having the support of all of the folks in our committees and our stakeholders group. So we learn from all of them so that we can give the parents what they need. A good example is when we learned about substance abuse. I'm not a substance abuse counselor, but what we learned and what the judge learned was that when somebody's recovering from methamphetamines, they go through, at the point of 6 months, which is when we're trying to reunify, a parent goes through some pretty significant struggles and they're at the highest risk of relapse. If we hadn't known that, we thought, oh, they're just trying to fail, right? But everybody came together and learned about that. So when these parents face these challenges, it's up to us as professionals to learn to support those parents to overcome those.
Judy, is one of the problems that sometimes that there's a mismatch between what sort of the federal timelines say about reunification and what we know about substance abuse treatment and the length of time it takes to get clean and to stay clean?
It is a mixed match. It's an unfortunate mixed match, but I don't know the answer to that because when you're looking at children under the age of 3, and if you learn about the science of their development, that they, 6 months to them is quite a bit of their life already, right? So it's a delicate balance because we have parents that are trying to get through a lifetime of probably trauma and childhood issues, and we learn from the ACEs and all of that stuff. And so we have to come together to figure out how to work that delicate balance and get everybody to the point where they need to be. And if it can't happen, what's the second, the lesser of the two evils? How do we ensure that these parents might be able to have some kind of relationship beyond it if they can't redefine their relationship as a parent?
Judy, you mentioned a kind of a host of services that are put in place that the Safe Babies Court team's kind of built up over time. Part C services, early access, and early Head Start. Can you describe a little bit about, not everybody here probably knows what those things are.
Well, you guys know Dr. Shawn, right? We knew who to go to first, right? One of our first meetings was with Drake Head Start, early Head Start program, because we knew that they are the best in the country. Make sure you record that, Lisa, all right? They're the best in the country in dealing with early childhood development. And we had one right here in the city. And our first meeting that we had was going and talking to the director over there and saying, how can we get an opportunity for a teacher from Early Head Start to come and learn about how child welfare works. And then we learned about how Early Head Start works and developed that collaborative partnership. And it took several years, but Early Head Start was able to supply us with a teacher that goes into the homes now. And she has specifically the court caseloads. So that's an example. And Part C services is through the, you remember the No Child Left Behind? What is that law? I'm not quoting law in front of all of you, but it was the answer to No Child Left Behind for children under the age of 3. And so every child that's placed in foster care is entitled to a developmental assessment through these Part C services. It happens in every state around the country. IDEA, thank you. I knew you'd know that, Michelle. So we were tapping into that entitlement that these families had for their children. It was there, but the process was too difficult. So as a multidisciplinary team, that was what we did behind the scenes, is how can we make this simpler for these department workers to be able to make an easy referral over there. So that's one of the examples that we use. Of course, the Regional Child Protection Center, I think it goes without saying that you really, when we have these vulnerable children coming in, they usually have some significant delays, whether it's developmental, physical, or even socio-emotional. So it was really critical to partner with the Regional Child Protection Center because they're the best of the best in my opinion, across the country, but in the state here. And so we learned a lot from them in order to apply it to the child welfare cases.
So that's a nice segue to Dr. Shaw. And I wonder, Dr. Shaw, if you could tell us a little bit about the kind of the beginning stages of developing the Safe Babies Court team and your involvement in it and what you were trying to do.
I'm a pediatrician by profession, and in my practice with the vulnerable children in the social welfare system, and especially the children who were living in an environment where parents were affected by substance abuse, I did not learn and was not taught either of those skills in my med school, or in my residency training, or in early part of my practice. So it takes a sensitivity and probably a bravado beyond what the normal person's wisdom will require to say, I can take it on. But when I was young, I was naive enough to say that, nobody wants to tackle child abuse in the medical profession. I'm going to do that because that will encourage other of my colleagues to come on board. They will say, well, how difficult could it be? If she can do it, we can. But guess what? For 35 some years, I was the Lone Ranger. Okay? So I was doing that. I had a lot of support, but it required my colleagues patting me on the shoulder and saying, Vishwan, we are so proud of you, doing a good job, keep on doing. And we will send our problem cases to you. So, you need to have, that was the biggest challenge, that there was a time where for 10 years, I did not take a vacation. A single day off. I did not take it. I had to be available 24/7. And when you're talking about the challenges, you need to have, what you really need in Safe Baby course is champions for children. These are the people who, I would call them, maybe they are selfish and maybe they don't know anything better. But they stick their neck out and they said, okay, we'll take this challenge on because the challenges are great. And fortunately, at the time of the awareness that we need to have the Safe Baby Score, a lot of knowledge was coming along about what babies really know from the very beginning. And just to give you an example, I bet most of you are not aware of the fact that every newborn baby is required to perform 6 very critical skills for their survival within a minute of their birth. And to perform that with 100% accuracy, skills that they've never done that before. Now, we are all smart people in this room, and if I gave you a task to perform 6 skills that you've never done in your life before, and to do it in 100% accuracy within a minute, none of us could do that. I'll challenge you. And yet, almost all babies do that. Okay? And they are breathe on your own, keep your heart rate, keep your temperature, start eating. You've never eaten for 9 months before. Okay? Start pooping and peeing. You've never done that either. That's a skill too. And all those skills, babies do that within 1 minute of birth. And do that with 100% accuracy. And that means that they have organizational skills as good as most smart adults, but better than that. And yet, many adults do not understand babies. And we think, well, you know why? Because we have kind of got ourselves limited by this thing we call language. Unless somebody talks to us, we don't understand each other. And a lot more understanding happens without the verbal communication. And that's what babies do. And as a pediatrician who is dealing with small babies, especially in the 0 to 3 age group, has to learn how to understand that communication. In my clinic practice, I would teach the residents who are physicians who have passed the medical degree but are learning to be pediatricians. And as they came to me, the first thing I did after introducing myself was take their stethoscope away from them. You know that thing that hangs around and makes us doctors feel like doctors, because I call it doctors pacifiers. And that's a very, and it makes them feel good, secure, but what I noticed, and but probably if you go and see a doctor and as soon as they come into the room, they say, hi, how are you? And then stick those things in their ears, that means we are not listening to you. And that's what happens to most of the parents. Nobody hears them, so I took that away. The second thing I did was that I asked every one of my young physicians, do you have baby's permission to go and interact with them, to touch them? And they would look at me as if, what? The baby is only a couple of days old. I said, you need to have the baby's permission before you encroach upon this boundary that is their safe net. And that's what we need to learn. And I think this goes across the disciplines with it, that Safe Baby Score taught us and learned that babies have a voice too, even though they may not be talking. They have feelings. They are very observant. They know everything that goes around them. And you better believe it. They may not be able to say it. And they react to it non-verbally. And for a long time, people working with the little babies did not understand that. We just kind of moved them from like the blocks from one place to another place, and I see the kids who will be in multiple foster homes, and they said, oh yeah, things are nice. And okay, so how are the visitations going with the parents? Oh, the baby is having too much stress because the mother came and the baby started crying, and so we are not going to have weekly visits, now we're going to have once a month visit. And I would say, what? And wouldn't you cry if you're taken away from your loved one and you don't have a sense of time and you haven't seen them for a whole week, which to you as a baby may be a lifetime, and then you see that same person that you're so connected with and you cry because you protest and you said, how could you leave me with strange people and all that? And we did not understand that before the Safe Babies Court. So Safe Babies Court changed that and said, hey, wait a minute, there needs to be more interaction rather than stabbing, okay? So, I mean, people started listening to the kids, that's what happened. And what you needed was a team of people because you needed to have young lawyers who were representing the young or old lawyers, I shouldn't say young, I shouldn't be, but sensitive people who could understand the parents' needs, who could understand the baby's needs, and you needed to have the social workers who was able to bend the rules and say, no, if this is not written in my policy manual, so what? This is the baby's need, I could do that. You needed to have the judges who not only paid attention to what was written in report, but looked at the people and saw the child's needs and the parents' need and what the stresses were, because a lot of these families had 25 different services in 24 hours a day, and they were required to meet them and do it. And you know, we can't do that, and we shouldn't expect these parents to do that. And you needed to have a medical professional who were not just stuck in the role of giving babies the shots so that they did not get the polio and all that, but also were willing to listen to the babies and also had empathy for both biological parents and look at the needs of the foster parents and connected with these agencies. These were all the challenges because none of us had ever required any training anywhere in our profession, and we all have to learn. But you know, the good thing was there is a wonderful thing about people in Iowa and people in Des Moines. We know each other and we have personal connections and we talk to each other, so we came together as a team. And you know, we sat down and we said, okay, what can you bring, Dr. Shah, what can you tell us? Okay, you tell us about the child development, how you've done. Social workers, yes. What can you do? Can you just change it and bend a little bit of rules and see what we can do for the families? And judges, what you can facilitate and require. And one of the best things I remember was, it was just an eye-opening experience. We used to have a parent sign the release of information form. We had 25 forms that the parent has to go to 25 different places. In the doctor's office, in the early Head Start, in the visiting nurses, in the, release of information so that these people can, and the parents would get sick and tired. And what the Safe Babies Court did was, got all those forms, put them in the table outside the court, took the parent less than half an hour to get the release of information, and everybody got them. So much time saved and so much better compliance.
And their legal representative is right there.
And legal representative right there. Simple things that you don't find in the books. They were not in the books. And this was the beauty of the Safe Babies Court, I would say. But if we would have been overwhelmed with all the challenges, I think we probably, maybe I would say we weren't smart enough to get overwhelmed by the challenges. We said, we want to do it and we do it.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. So, Judge Seidlin, you come to the juvenile court bench probably two years ago?
Over 2.5.
2.5. And then you get the added challenge of taking over the Safe Babies Court team. What are the challenges you saw right from the beginning?
First of all, every time I come to this building, I'm so impressed